welcome back to another episode of An Abundance of Thrones. I'm your host, Garrett, and partnered with Brad and Wade.
I'm back.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We
missed you
finally
last week.
We finally have someone
Thanks.
to row the boat.
It was a little two-sided last week.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, other duties ensued and
You
pressed.
said duty.
Well, we know who's not
would
joining
like to
me.
inform our listeners that this will be an explicit podcast, or at least has the potential for it. And this will be a full episode review and recap of Season 5, Episode 4, Sons of the Harpy. So if you don't want us to spoil the episode for you, go watch it. Come back.
Yay.
We'll be here.
Yay.
There be spoilers here.
There be spoilers here. So let's get the business out of the way. Once again, this is Sons of the Harpy, directed once again by Mark Mylod, M-Y-L-O-D. And this episode was not written by the Double Ds. It was written by Dave Hill and got a viewership of 6.82 million. So a little up from week 3, pretty much matched episode 2. Still a far cry from the premiere that pulled in 8 million. So
So I wonder what's going on there. Did people, try it out and go, no?
People tried
This
it
is
out,
crap.
didn't see any action, then went,
Well, I wonder if people tried it out, or maybe people caught the actual airing for the premiere episode, and then people are relying on the HBO Go or HBO Now to watch the episode more at their leisure. But
True, because that won't count in these stats, right?
yes, so the premiere being the big thing, and then people relying on other means to watch it on
Modern
a regular
technology.
basis or repeats.
or it's people who watch the pirated episodes, rewatch this one to get a recap.
That's a very likely point. We had the first 4 or 5 episodes that are leaked, so people aren't going to sit around Sunday night to watch something they may have already seen.
And they're just doing this one to be like, okay, I remember where I'm at. Maybe
Yep.
we just got that little spike, and then and we have other people who are like, is it the episode we haven't seen yet?
It'd be interesting to see how that picks up next week.
Yeah.
Yep. Next week, maybe the week after. I've heard conflicting reports on if it was 4 or 5 episodes leaked. So we'll see how it goes.
I've heard 4, but I haven't heard much of it, so.
Yep. So starting off this episode, we will initiate at the opening sequence. Nothing really to note here except for we got to see Dorne for the first time.
Woohoo!
The Water Gardens of Dorne. Once again, the Harpy is on the Pyramid of Marine. I asked the creators, what the fuck? And that's all I had to say. But the Water Gardens of Dorne, they look pretty cool.
And they did have it in the opening as well.
That's what I mean. The opening sequence,
Oh,
we
okay.
saw the Water Gardens of Dorne.
The giant spiraling snake.
Yeah, that was cool. See, Brad's laughing because he didn't actually watch that part.
Yeah. So, full confession here, it has been a hell of a week and weekend for me. I have seen the episode, but I'm commenting kind of blind because I was so exhausted. I had it on and I dozed in and out. So you may touch on some things that I'm just completely clueless about. And the opening sequence, including Dorne, is one of those.
One of those things.
Apparently, I fell asleep at the beginning, so I may not have seen any of this.
Turns out he was only seeing commercials of it.
Right.
Yeah. Brad's perception of this episode is purely on marketing and not on content.
It's done by a lucid dream, driven by sound of the show going on.
Right?
It's like when you dream and you hear music in your dreams because of
Exactly.
the radio playing. Yeah, so
Yep.
Brad envisioned the episode while listening to the audio.
So this may not be anything like the episode you watched. That's not how I remember it.
I was on the other side of the boat with Farrah Fawcett.
And snakes were all topless. Okay.
Wow. So we open the episode. We go into Valentis. at least we can assume is Volantis. It's otherwise known as somewhere in Essos. Jorah decides he needs a boat, and he cold cocks a fisherman.
Well, I'm assuming it is as well, because, I mean, how far was he going to drag
Exactly.
Tyrion after he knocked him out?
Yeah, exactly
He
my
doesn't
point.
weigh that
Or-
much.
Not knocked out.
He doesn't
but,
weigh that much. He's a half man.
Okay, but still.
At least
You know,
George... Go ahead.
I can't imagine him dragging him far.
Yeah, I figured as much. At least Jorah did the right thing when he knocked the guy out and he dragged him up onto the sand instead of letting him drown in the water.
Right?
I mean, he's not from the Iron Islands after all.
He also tossed like 2 coins on the guy's chest. It's like, is that going to be enough to cover a new boat? Really?
Better than nothing, I
Probably
guess.
not. Yeah.
It's like, that will pay the nets, but
Yeah. It's on his word and his honor as a knight. Wait, no, he doesn't have that. Never
Wait,
mind.
no. Got exiled twice from two
no,
different
yeah.
rulers.
not a knight.
He's a,
This word means jack shit.
Pretty much.
So we transition from one boat to another with Jaime. He's asking about a set of islands. They are told to him that they are indeed Tarth, the Sapphire Islands, which we know of from Brienne. And we find out that Bronn is not exactly an idiot. Jaime says he's going to release his niece. Bronn goes, niece?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Sure, dude.
Question mark?
Yeah. You want to try that again? And then Bronn's got a pretty interesting outlook on Dorne. It's a bunch of people who like to fight and fuck and fuck and fight.
Each one relieves the other,
Kind of a
apparently.
cyclical cycle. Yeah, cyclical cycle. There you go. Way to go.
Wow.
They fight so they can fuck, and they fuck so they can fight.
Self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
I thought you put eating in there at least somewhere.
Yeah. It's fine. Well,
Yeah.
depending on your appetites.
Ending. Yeah. You might get that somewhere in there.
And Bronn calls Jaime out on freeing Tyrion. Jaime says after Tyrion killing Tywin, he'll split the little bastard in 2. I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what he said.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what Jaime was expecting, and I know this is kind of throwing back several episodes now, but what was he expecting? Seriously.
Well, he wasn't supposed to go up into the Hand of the King.
I
He was supposed to go up a
understand
different
that.
tunnel.
He wasn't supposed to see Shay lying on Tywin's bed and
Exactly.
There were lots of things he wasn't supposed to do. Tell me, when through the entire series has Tyrion ever done what he was supposed to do?
Sure, but would he have killed Tywin if Shay wasn't in the bed?
he was king of the hand. He actually got to some of the small council meetings. Drunk, but he got to them. So
True.
technically he did what he was
True.
supposed to do.
True. You know, that's an interesting. I know we're going back a couple episodes, but if Shay hadn't have been there, would we be in this mess now?
That's like saying in one of the first episodes, if Baelish didn't betray Ned, would we be where we now? Answer is yes.
So, from the boat to King's Landing, we get a small council meeting with Cersei informing Mace Tyrell. Is it Mace Tyrell? I think it's Mace Tyrell.
Yes.
Lord Tyrell, at least.
Lord of the Coin.
Yep. Master of Coin.
More like Lord of Fools.
Yeah, well, that too. He's pretty socially awkward.
Socially stupid is what he is.
He just likes getting his ego stroked.
He does.
Pretty much
He
is what
does.
it is.
Probably other things too, but
Well,
we get to see his ego being stroked.
Yeah, we can't speak to those other things. So she's sending him to the Iron Bank of Bravos to negotiate better terms, as the crown cannot afford what the Iron Bank is asking in terms of payment.
Now we get to see the consequences of all the borrowing that Robert did.
Well, it wasn't Robert, it was Baelish.
Well, yes, but Baelish was operating on orders from the king.
I mean,
Pay for it. Do
true.
it. Make it happen.
It's true. And then maybe something interesting, don't really know here, but Sir Marin being Mace Tyrell's escort. This could be a little interesting.
Dun dun dun.
Little smirk on Cersei's, face. She's always a smirk when she's up to no good.
And again, to Wade's point of just how stupid Tyrell is, he has no idea that, he's all proud as punch that, he gets his own King's Guard.
Yeah.
No, you idiot.
Yeah, he sees it as
You
a big
just got
honor.
your own personal executioner if she wanted it.
Yeah. And since there's obviously no love lost between Cersei and Marjorie,
Right.
there's high potential that be utilized.
There's no love lost between Cersei and the entire Tyrell family.
I mean, also true.
She was getting him out of the way for what happens next, but
Yeah, that is true. And speaking of what happens next, we see a meeting with Cersei and the High Sparrow. We learned the High Sparrow does not like the taste of wine.
how many people said 2, 3?
What?
Tywin doesn't like wine. High Sparrow doesn't
Tywin
like.
drank wine.
There was someone. I remember someone else who refused wine.
He may have refused it at set times, but didn't refuse it because of the wine itself.
Okay.
He refused it maybe strategically.
Yeah. Sansa doesn't like ale.
That's
We
correct.
saw
Sansa
that
does not
last
like ale.
episode.
So Cersei and the High Sparrow talk about the Faith Militant, apparently a pseudo religious army that upheld the rules of the religion that was abolished under the Targaryen reign.
I think anytime you arm a church, it's a bad idea.
You think?
Yep.
Between having the Star of the Seven carved into your forehead and pretty much wreaking havoc on the entire city because God says, or in this case, the seven-faced God. Between whores and gays and drunks, the gays including Loras Tyrell, which we get a little bit of drama following.
The funny thing is, sorry, not really kind of funny, but the odd thing is that they basically attacked a brothel.
Yeah.
There's 2 points. It's one of the, I guess, faith militant decided to grab a prostitute by her hair, and I believe she yelled that, "Get off me."
Yeah, while she's on top of a patron.
And the second thing going, one of the, I don't know who his name is, probably doesn't have a name, and going, "This is a Peter Baelish establishment," and getting elbowed. It's like, for all the power people say Baelish has, he seems to be disrespected rather quickly
Yeah.
and multiple times over.
Well, that male that we saw in the whorehouse was no other than Loras Tyrell's boy toy.
Ah,
Owen, I think they said his name was last episode or 2 episodes ago. Something like that.
to Wade's point, though, sometimes power is wielded in quiet. And that tends to be the way Baelish plays his. He's not the grand, he's not Cersei. He's not out in the open. He plays his stuff in the shadows.
but with the guy with brothels everywhere, you think he'd have a little more, what's it, more respect than just, when someone says this is a Peter Baelish establishment, just getting elbowed in the nose.
Okay, but at this point, does Peter really care about his brothels? He's now Lord of Harrenhal by law,
Eyrie.
Lord of the Eyrie by marriage, and is pining for things to come, which we'll discuss here in a little bit. I mean, he's not playing with backyard poker rooms anymore. He's playing on the grand stadium, but operating in the shadows.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if, for lack of a better term, I think the brothels still have, the whole not that it's illegal like it is in the real world, but that they're, it still feels like they're looked down upon as houses of ill repute.
Well, definitely by the sparrows they are.
Well, yeah. Absolutely, except the, High Septon.
Well, he's not a High Septon
Yeah,
anymore. He's rotting in a jail cell, and
in the
the
Red
High
Keep.
Sparrow is now the High Septon.
Yep. But it just seems to me like, even the business that Baelish chose to build himself up on was one of shadows and,
Sure.
Well,
it was somewhere you went. It was not illegal. You're not going to get thrown in jail for going to the whorehouse, but it's not, somewhere you advertised either.
well,
Yeah.
it does make sure he has a warm bed in every, city?
True.
With, actually, he never really
With
partook.
Nope, he never did partake. It was purely business. So following Loras being captured because of his, what do they call it?
Orientation?
That's what we call it. They call it something else in the show. Depravity, so to
Privilege?
speak.
No.
I don't know. So we get a pretty heated confrontation with Marjorie and Tommen. Tommen goes to try to fix it and can't. And Marjorie's a little upset and says she's going to go send word to grandmother and she needs to be with her family right now. The first marriage fight. Aw.
I find it odd how Circe spoke about the two pillars. It seems one is kind of growing stronger than the other.
Well, but she's playing them against each other.
I know, but still.
She's playing the faith militant against the crown, knowing full well of Loras and other situations that is going to cause a conflict between Tommen and Marjorie and the Sparrows. Which is interesting. She put her son in harm's way.
Interestingly, though, he's not the only one that, committed
Yes.
sexual problems or sexual
Sins.
deviance, I suppose
Yeah.
you'd call it.
Promiscuity? I don't know.
No, sins.
Is it?
Sins against the church based on
Right.
orientation or
Yeah,
actions.
exactly.
Yep.
It's fun. Last podcast, you asked, why was she doing this with the High Sparrow? And now you got your answer.
I got part of it. There's definitely a bigger play she's got going on, though.
Yeah. Again, though, you got to be careful arming the church.
Yeah.
That's,
Fanatics with weapons. That sounds like a good idea.
I know, right?
Could she turn back around, of course, knowing Circe, back around and say, no, this was actually not ordained?
No, because a bill was presented to Tommen and he signed it.
Oh, okay.
At least that's
And
what
he's
was
regretting that now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oops. So
Don't.
we got
Sorry, wrong franchise.
we go far north to the wall. We appear on Stannis talking to his wife. Her name escapes me at the moment. And she talks about that she regrets not giving him a true son and is talking about the deformity of Shireen. Lady Melisandre steps in and says her scars mean nothing to the Lord of Light, and essentially tells Stannis that last time you went to battle, you left me behind at Sir Davos' request, and that didn't go so well for you. Maybe you'll think twice this time.
Yeah, knock it off, dude.
Yeah. So, we'll see how well that goes for Stannis on his march on Winterfell. And we see Jon and Sam writing some letters to the Lords of the North, requesting men and supplies until he reaches Roose Bolton's letter.
Yeah, you can feel the awkwardness. Even Sam, I think, was a little hesitant here.
Oh, he was, definitely. He kind of held on to it and he slowly put it down in front of him, kind of like, I know you don't want to see this, but...
Don't cut my fingers off, please.
And after a little persuasion, Jon is hesitant but goes through with signing it as the need for men and supplies outweigh his emotional state with the Boltons.
Isn't it interesting how we've seen Sam develop as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just this season, he's made jokes at higher-born people. He's told the crowd to be quiet. He stepped up and put John's name into the bidding.
And defended him. Yeah. A far cry from Sir Piggy from season 1.
After killing a White Walker, he's just like, screw you guys.
Yep. And a Then. Don't forget the Then.
And the Fen. So now he's got 2 middle fingers.
And then John gets a guest he wasn't necessarily expecting on. Melisandre enters in, requesting that he join Stannis on the march south. And then trying to maybe sweeten the deal a little bit.
I guess that's one way of putting it.
So you were awake for this scene, were you?
I was awake for this scene, yes. I think he's John's feeling a little guilt still. I think he's feeling a little guilt from his vows, and also a little bit of pride and defiance. Look, I still care for this person. I don't care what you say.
Yep.
The one thing that didn't put him over is she didn't say, "Yeah, I can birth a smoke monster that will go and assassinate him if we do this."
Right?
Assassinate who? Bolton?
Yeah.
She could.
Yeah.
I could just wipe out Bolton for you if you just want to fuck me real quick. Take care of that.
Let's just get this over with.
He does take full advantage of a nice little grope action, though, before finally saying no thanks. Apparently, they weren't up to his standards.
You did notice he was not especially in a hurry to stop that.
Say, oh, boobs.
Hey, those are nice. Oh, yeah, those feel good.
It's been a while. Yeah. No, I've had better.
Oh, wait. Sorry, Night's Watch. What?
But then she has an interesting little goodbye for John. Where do you think this came from?
Fill me in.
When Melisandre walks out of John's quarters.
Oh, yes.
She has a very interesting little farewell.
That kind of gave me pause there. Like, what?
Yeah, maybe the Lord of Light is communicating with the dead.
Giving whispers.
Yeah. You know nothing. Jon Snow.
That was just weird.
And he's sitting there. It's like, there's supposed to be something that comes after that. Oh, right. Damn.
He's like, what the fuck? I mean, you both have red hair, but from? Jesus.
Yeah, no, that was... I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this one.
Or do they? I mean, it looks like next episode, Stannis leaves the wall and marches on Winterfell. So maybe this is where it stops. Maybe it has more to it.
Now, going back in episode, there was actually kind of a little fun post. It was back for when John not murdered, but carried out the execution on what's his name?
Yes.
But they put within him being hit by an arrow in the head, and it turned to Stannis with a bow.
Oh, where Stannis took the execution away from John.
Exactly.
That's pretty interesting, actually. So while still at the wall, we come back to Stannis, and he's visited by his daughter Shireen. Talking about how she knows that she wasn't supposed to come on this trip because, well, Mother told her so. Stannis didn't like that very much.
Yeah, not so much. This is one of those very rare, almost humanizing moments for Stannis. We've seen Stannis the king. We've seen Stannis the hard-nosed, hard-ass. We've seen Stannis the executioner,
Stannis the leader. What?
Stannis, yeah, Stannis in all kinds of forms, but this is like the first time we actually get to see
the father.
There's some softer feelings under there.
We did see it last season where he went to visit her and his wife. And this is when he had Davos locked up. And
True.
because she had asked about him, and he's had to tell her that he was a traitor. So we've seen glimpses of this, but this was a very heartwarming scene for Stannis. He talks about the wooden doll that he got from, was it a Pentoshi or a Dornish trader? Dornish trader that we found out was infected with grayscale, and that's how Shireen got it.
His goods were junk except for a wooden doll. He had a dress sewn onto it in the colors of his house.
Yes.
Ha!
Wow.
Wade was watching.
Impressive.
Stannis says that her place was not with the stone men in the ruins of Old Valyria, and that they called in every maester, healer, and apothecary they could, and they were able to cure her with just the scars to show for it.
Very touching.
It was. I like that scene, actually. It's very nice. We jump a little south. We're at Winterfell. We see Sansa in the crypts lighting candles for her long-lost relatives. And we get a little story from Peter Baelish about a tournament in Harrenhal, which gives a little bit more credit to the R plus L equals J fan theory out there. If you're not familiar, we encourage you to...
Fill me in.
You're not familiar with the R plus L equals J?
No.
Okay. So, this is the fan theory on Jon Snow's parentage. And the story that happened that was expressed by Peter Baelish was that there was a tournament in Harrenhal where he was able to... He saw Lyanna for the first time, and along with Rhaegar and Ned and Robert Baratheon, and Rhaegar gives a crown of winter roses to Lyanna instead of his wife. He rides past his wife and gives it to Lyanna. And the fan theory is that Jon Snow is not Ned Stark's bastard son, but the offspring of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, which is why he's never talked about it and never told us, the fans, who the mother is, because it may not have necessarily been a tavern wench as we're led to believe. Ooh. There's a lot of fan theory out there for R plus L equals J. I encourage people to take a look. And then Sansa makes a remark of, yes, Rhaegar may have chose Lyanna at the tournament, but then he kidnapped and raped her. Or did he? We're told it was kidnap and rape, but who's telling the story? Bum, bum, bum. Wait,
my head is still swimming.
Is it? And then Peter goes on to tell Sansa about the plan of Stannis to liberate Winterfell, in which case he would rescue Sansa. He would still need her name, much like the Boltons do, and would most likely name her Wardeness of the North. If Stannis doesn't go to Winterfell to liberate it, or if he tries and fails, she'll be forced to marry Ramsay, and will still have, some authority in the North, because she is still a Stark.
He wants her to play Ramsay like a fiddle.
Yes. And
I wonder how she'll do.
Some scenes look promising. She's
been getting plenty of experience at it.
Yes, she has. And then Dorne again.
Lovely Dorne.
Pseudo again. I say again because we're back with Bronn and Jaime. Jaime wakes up to a knife being thrown by his head for breakfast.
Yay.
Nothing like a little snake over the fire for breakfast.
A little bit of breakfast in bed.
I heard it tastes like chicken.
Sure. Bronn and Jaime talk about their favorite ways to die, or more like
more preferred ways
to die, as it seems like every way to die is a pile of shit. Bronn wants to die boring in his own keep, surrounded by his wife and money.
And wine. Don't forget the wine.
Don't forget the wine. And Jaime in the arms of the woman he loves. But does she want the same thing?
Here again, Bronn gives a little twist of the knife, like, I know what's going on, dude.
Yeah.
You may not want to admit it, but, And
We're kind of
totally
playing.
stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Listen,
kind-
I'm kind of calling you out on it, but I'm not calling you out on
He's
it.
kind of playing a circle jerk with Jamie.
He is.
Okay.
Kind of testing the waters a little bit. We learned that Jamie with one hand fights like shit.
But can block like
Well, he never
crazy.
did finish his training.
That's right. But he's got a hell of a block. Apparently the gold hand is good for something, to which Braun replies he had a good teacher.
It stops that sword right in its swing.
Tink.
Yep.
I bet that one guy, the Dornish guard, was like, what the
The hell?
He just stopped the sword with his hand.
He's a sorcerer.
I thought it was interesting, though, how much damage Braun is doing, and he wounds the horse of that one, which falls onto his leg, and to which he just looks at Jamie and goes, "There's your weak one."
Slow enough for you?
You said you
Yeah.
wanted a
Is that-
slow one. Here you go.
Yeah, is that weak enough for you?
Exactly.
Loser.
While in Dorne, we transition to the Sand Snakes. To which it appears they're plotting for war and going to be using Marcella as leverage. We find out that the ship captain that transported Jamie and Bronn did in fact attempt to sell that information, and that got him killed.
And probably not need any more money.
Yeah, that
I
big
think-
bag of gold didn't go very far, apparently.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
He tried to sell the information, probably didn't get any money for the information anyway.
That's correct.
You know, I'm trying to remember from the books. I guess I remembered wrong. I thought there were more than 3.
Well, we're only introduced to 3 right now.
True.
Yeah, I don't recall too much about the Sand Snakes from the readings, so this is a little bit new to me, but it sounded like when Oberyn was in the capital in last season, he had mentioned more than just 3 daughters.
I thought there were 6.
Yeah. It
I
sounded
don't know
like
why
Oberyn
I
was a
thought
bit of a
6,
slut.
but- A little bit.
Yeah. Likes to spread his seed, so to speak.
Yes,
Well, it sounds more-
He did.
It sounds more of like, for one of them, he didn't spread his seed, he just like took one.
Well, it was his daughter.
Oh, okay, probably was right.
You know, it was just...
I didn't
They
think
were
that.
all by different mothers, though.
Yeah. So we transition once again to somewhere in Essos. Tyrion finds it very hilarious to annoy the hell out of Jorah while being gagged. Jorah announces that he only serves one queen, that is Daenerys, in which case Tyrion says this is one shit kidnapping because I was going there anyway. Thanks for the expedited trip.
Thanks for the free passage.
Yeah, way to waste your efforts, dude, because that's where we were headed.
Yep. And one of my favorite sayings, you're going the wrong way. We're going east, and Westeros is west.
As in Westeros.
As in, amazing how that works.
As
isn't it?
in, do you
Isn't
have
it,
any wine?
Tyrion says that he wants to meet up with Daenerys because, like everybody else, he wants to serve her for gold and glory. Oh, and hate. Don't forget hate.
Right. Very important motivator, that one.
That's right, it is. Tyrion then identifies that it is indeed Jorah from the bear crest on his breastplate and dragon emblems alongside, yet also points out that what were you doing serving your queen by not serving your queen?
It also shows that he still knows the who's who of Westeros, even though he's been in a box
That's correct.
twice.
Now, one thing, Brad, just to call it out to last week, since you weren't joining us, did you pick up on Tyrion's bilingualness when in Volantis?
He was speaking High Valyrian, wasn't he?
I didn't hear. Well, he spoke. It sounded like High Valyrian to maybe the brothel doorman, but he was also commenting in the common tongue to Varys when the Red Priestess was talking, which sounded like in High Valyrian.
When was it Valerian when he was standing at the door for the brothel?
The brothel guy rubbed his head and said, "I hear it's good luck to."
He said,
No, he did. He said that in the common tongue.
Yes.
Yeah, he never actually speaks it, but he comments back on hearing it.
yeah.
Okay.
So I've heard a few other podcasts, and they don't really call attention to the fact that this is the first time that we see him interacting with a different language and understanding at least what's being said.
He also gets he draws the attention of the Red Priestess.
He does, by not drawing her attention.
By not doing anything at all.
She appears to see him and maybe recognize him, but we don't really know the extent of that.
Those red priests, very mysterious.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Knowing things that they shouldn't know.
Damn, Lord of Light. It's too fucking powerful. So we transition to Marine, to which Barristan Selmy is telling Daenerys that Rhaegar liked to sing. And they would collect money.
I like the way he's trying to humanize... here I go, using that word again. She's only heard certain stories from Varys.
Not Varys, Viserys.
Sorry, yes, Viserys. And, he carefully picked the ones he wanted her to hear, and she hasn't really gotten a full history. And it's interesting to see the history starting to fill in.
Some other aspects to fill in the blanks. Yeah, we get told that Rhaegar never liked to kill, but he loved to sing, and he would walk the streets and sing to the people. Sometimes when he collected money, he'd give it to the next singer. Sometimes he'd donate it to an orphanage. Or on one specific occasion, they got drunk. Very human things to do.
Absolutely.
And we find in the audience chamber that... I don't know his name. It's 3-name, whatever. One of the former masters of Marine is still pining to get the fighting pits reopened to potentially unify the masters and the former masters and former slaves, because there's nothing that brings them together at this point. And I wonder, was this a stall ploy for the Sons of the Harpy, or was it just something else happening in the background? Is he involved?
Maybe. Maybe not.
And then we get a pretty interesting fight scene with the Unsullied and the Sons of the Harpy in the tunnels, which we have pretty much all the Unsullied dead. Grey Worm appears to be injured, unknown if he's dead. Selmy kind of comes to his rescue, but potentially at his demise as well. I mean, it looks like they both didn't make it out of there, but...
and that was where the episode closed.
Fade to black, the end.
Standard
Sons
rule
of
Game
bitches.
of Thrones, show me a body.
That's right. Well, in the clips for next episode, we do see a body on a what appears to be a funeral-style slab. So it's not looking good for somebody.
A body, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody dies. Which, Game of Thrones, I mean. Big shocker.
Right?
Somebody always dies.
Here's my surprise face.
Yeah.
So, here we go again with Dany has a civil war on her hands.
Correct.
This is not going well. She has no idea what she's doing.
Yes, very true.
And it's really, really, really starting to show.
Yeah. She wants to run and hide up in the pyramid and not actually get her hands dirty to do anything about it. And just because people want something that disagrees with her, she's against it, as opposed to listening to any sort of reason for the greater good.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where this goes and how it plays out.
Agreed.
There's a definite emotional impact for her for the next episode.
Yes, there is.
She snaps.
I want to give a shout out to a listener on YouTube, actually. LaDonna Sargent gave us a comment. We made a comment last week about Podrick and being pardoned by Tywin because of his surname being Payne. And it is expressed that he is the nephew of Ilan Payne, the executioner, Tywin owed Ilyn a favor after his tongue was removed, and that was to spare Podrick.
The king's justice.
Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we had some confusion at certain scenes if we were at Winterfell or Moat Cailin, because we clearly saw Moat Cailin, and then we didn't necessarily see the entrance into Winterfell or not was kind of confusing. And LaDonna Sargent emphasized that we were in fact in Winterfell, as we now know from this episode, with Sansa being in the crypts.
I did state it was being rebuilt on
Yes.
last podcast.
So thank you for the comment. We appreciate the insight and the potential correction.
Haha.
Haha.
We like being correct. Not necessarily corrected, but,
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes you gotta take it.
yeah, sometimes one negates the other.
Criticism is mostly a good thing.
Mostly.
I did say mostly.
Yes, mostly. So, I mean, what'd you think of this episode as a whole, Brad? I mean, are we starting to build up in activity and tension, do you think?
I think we're
Yes.
fine. We're finally getting
Very
into the nitty
definitely.
gritty of it.
Yeah, I think they've kind of set the stage for us up to this point, and now we're starting to see the consequences of some of the actions that have taken place.
Yeah, and there are certain things that I keep looking for. Again, I have the blessing and the curse of having read the books. So I'm ahead of this point in the story, so I know roughly what's going on. Obviously, I've seen them take liberties with the story, with permission.
Yes.
So it's not a exact, I know word for word what's going to happen, but there's some things coming.
Yes.
That always makes me laugh when I see people complaining about alterations that's different from the book than what's in the show. And it's like, do you not realize that he okayed these changes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are literally preaching to no one.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't say that they're doing a disservice to the author when the author is signing off on the adjustments for the show. You kind of don't have a podium to stand on.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we did see a very interesting clip for next week's episode and a very flabbergasted expression on Tyrion. Apparently the stories of dragons in Essos aren't just stories.
This is going to be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for a dwarf to ride a dragon. Put that in the circus.
Put that in your circus and smoke it.
This is going to be cool. I mean, I don't know what else to say to this. I mean, dragons, it's awesome anyway.
Yes.
And how good they were done.
Yeah. I mean, some of the most perfect dragons you could ask for.
Right?
And with that, I think we'll leave everyone waiting for more.
With a massive cliffhanger, just like the last show.
It's a cliffhanger.
It's a
Whatever that
cliff.
is, I don't know.
I don't think we want to know.
Might be dangerous. Might kill you.
It might.
This is Game of Thrones.
That's true. All right,
Don't
guys.
go sticking your nose in. It will get you killed.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will catch you next week for episode 5.
Goodbye, everyone.